Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Kapendra from Kirodimal College, University of Delhi. Today we are going to discuss about the module Application of Ecology in Sustainable Development Part 1 from paper Principles of Ecology. After studying this module, you shall be able to understand the concept of sustainable development, know the reasons for unsustainability, learn the challenges in sustainable development, learn about sustainability indicators, understand different aspects of sustainable development. All organisms living on Earth interact and modify their environment without causing any damage. However, human interference with the environment causes significant damage to the system. Increase in the human population and development of new technologies have created tremendous scope of modification of the environment. When the human shifted his habit to agriculture from hunting, even then his dependency on the primary productivity was not changed. Instead of depending on the productivity of natural ecosystem, now humans start depending on the productivity of the maintained agricultural ecosystem in terms of food resources. As a result, permanent villages were formed which further lead to division of labor and development of new social structure. The transition to agricultural society greatly eased the environmental constraints imposed on human carrying capacity. However, the continued dependency on plants and animals as the sole source of energy still set an upper limit on the productivity of human activities. In 18th century, development of the technologies replaced manual work of human and animals by machines, which led to industrial revolution or industrialization. A transition was formed during 20th century from rural agricultural based economy to an urban industrial based economy that shifted the distribution of human population. At the beginning of 20th century, only 35% human population lived in urban areas, and it increased further up to 80% in the early 21st century and continues to grow. The increased population required more food, space, and other resources. Due to increased population, we utilize more than 50% resources of freshwater, of which 70% of resources utilized in agriculture. We utilize 40% to 50% of the land surface for the production of food, fiber, and fuel. The exploitation of these natural resources to fulfill the basic need of growing human population led to the extinction of large number of species. Initially, the long-term consequences of human activities on the environment were not realized, but in 1970s the mantra was, the solution to pollution is dilution. If the rate of resource utilization does not exceed the rate of replacement of resources, it is said to be sustainable. However, if rate of utilization exceeds the resource replacement, the resource are said to be exploited and the quantity of resources declines for next generation. The sustainable resource utilization assumed that the used resource is renewable, which can be regenerated by nature itself. If the resource is non-renewable, it cannot be termed as sustainable, and its decline depends upon the rate at which it is consumed. For example, aluminum, iron, copper, zinc, etc. non-renewable resources. However, some of the resources which can be regenerated are also classified as non-renewable because their resupply rate is almost non-existent when compared to their utilization rate. For example, coal, petroleum, and natural gas requires millions of years for their formation and its resupply is zero at the time scale of human consumption. The concept of resource utilization through sustainability way can be better clarified by studying the ecological concept of functioning of natural ecosystem. The ecosystem is the functional unit of ecology, which is defined as the self-sustaining system where resources formed by the producers are utilized by the consumers and when they die, the resource is recycled by detritivores and again available to the producers. For example, uptake of nitrogen by plants is forced by the rate at which they become available in the soil. The nitrogen is utilized by the plants for the synthesis of organic matter which are consumed by herbivores which in turn are eaten by carnivores. Finally, nutrients which tied up in the organic matter are recycled by the process of decomposition and mineralization. As nutrients are converted into simpler forms and returned to the soil, they are rapidly absorbed by plants to minimizing their loss through different means. The human population explosion and its activities on the environment and natural resources are adversely affecting them. The human population has grown from 600 millions in 1760 to 6.3 billion in the year 2003. The human population size has grown doubled in the last 40 years, which can be further increased to 9 billion by 2050. Human and their interference in the nature for getting food, space, industrial development, energy, and urbanization are affecting the earth at various scales ranging from local region to global region. It causes the degradation of natural resources and threatened biodiversity on the earth. Sustainable development stressed that the rate at which natural resources are consumed must approximate the rate at which the resources are regenerated. At the same time, the resource must fulfill the social, economic, and other need without affecting the need of future generations. The purpose of sustainable development is to balance between ecology and economics and also manage resources of human use. Thus, the sustainability has become key concept in the fate of Earth system, biodiversity, ecosystem goods and services as well as human beings. Causes of unsustainability. The causes of unsustainable development are increased human population and overexploitation of natural resources. Environment degradation refers to diminishing of ecosystem at global or local level due to human activities. Environmental degradation, when occurs for longer duration, leads to collapsing of ecosystem as a whole, which will no longer able to sustain human population. The unsustainability increases when the sum total of natural resources is utilized much faster than it can regenerate. In the developing countries, the natural resources are exploited to fulfill the basic need of the population. The various activities performed by human are actually done to improve the quality of human life, which is usually associated with environmental degradation. The various human activities includes intensive agriculture, hasten the deforestation, desertification, and reduction of genetic diversity. Pollution of air, water, and land also become a challenge which is directly associated with the human health. Inland water bodies and coastal area become the dumping ground for disposing wastage generated by human, which adversely affect the aquatic and marine life. Other activities such as overfishing, excessive consumption of fresh water, deforestation, and industrialization also accelerates the process of environmental degradation and social disintegration. The fast accelerating revolution is the result of human greed, which unfortunately leads to the exploitation of natural resources. Excessive dependence of agriculture on chemical insecticides and fertilizers also helped in the environmental degradation. The increased demand of land, freshwater, marine, and coastal resources resulting from expansion of agriculture and uncontrolled urbanization leads to degradation of natural ecosystem and erode the life supporting system. Caring for natural resources and promoting their sustainable use ensures the survival and well-being of world living communities. Challenges in sustainable development. There are numerous challenges for achieving sustainable development. The main threats are economic disparity, political instability, severe poverty, disease, undernourishment and disease, population growth, and high consumerism in developed economies and increasing global use. The population of the 47 least developed countries exist on less than 0.5% of the world income. More than 2 billion people do not have access to adequate sanitation. 1 billion people do not have access to clean water, and 1.3 billion people are breathing air below the quality set by WHO. Poverty and socio-economic inequality also becomes serious issue of sustainability regarding peace and security, equity and solidarity, and the environment protection at the national, regional and global region. High poverty rate are linked with various social evils like disease, family breakdown, endemic crime and use of narcotic drugs. Presently, global food production is adequate to fulfill the nutritional requirement of human population, but due to inadequate distribution of economic resources and foodstuffs, around 800 million people remain undernourished. AIDS and malaria are two serious diseases which influence the productive capacity of people. Environmental pollution, global climate change, natural resource deterioration, loss of biological diversity has complex interactions with socio-economic systems. Priority atmospheric issues include climate change, stratospheric ozone depletion, acidification, urban air quality, and tropospheric ozone level. The impact of these issues related to human health, biodiversity, and the health of ecosystems, and increase in extreme events, economic damage due to adverse effect of agriculture, forestry, and fisheries, and many of the effects are long-term, global in nature, and irreversible with consequences for future generation. Sustainability indicators. Indicators are defined as something that reveal or detect and are also a simple statistical figure that helps to compress information into an easily understandable form that can facilitate the decision making processes. It can be used to measure progress towards sustainable development as well as provide an effective means of communicating ideas, thoughts, and values. The Commission on Sustainable Development provided a working list of 134 indicators and the related methodologies. In 2001, Commission on Sustainable Development developed the final framework of 15 themes and 38 sub-themes in which emphasis was given to use these indicators in decision-making processes at national level. In 2003, CSD reaffirmed the importance of indicators for sustainable development. An attempt of Composite Sustainability Index was commissioned by the Indian former Minister of Environment and Forest, Jairam Ramesh, but the draft does not include several issues and factors listed above. Another attempt was to propose a composite sustainability index for preliminary analysis in India to understand how various states in India are faring, but it also overlooks a number of important parameters. Substantially more work is required to develop a set of indexes that is robust, relatively easy to calculate, open to public understanding and participation, and capable of integrating complexity and nuances. There are number works being done outside India, such as Happy Planet Index proposed by New Economic Foundation and Bhutan's gross national happiness that could be assessed for their sustainability. Other environmental sustainability index includes green GDP and adjusted net saving, but these have various limitations at standalone measures. Another is the Environment Vulnerability Index, which include 50 sustainability indicators related to weather, geography, biodiversity, natural resources, and human activities, etc. Some of the indicators relating to atmosphere, land, ocean, sea, coasts, freshwater, and biodiversity are briefly described as follows. Ecological footprints. It was proposed by Mathis Wackernagel and William Rees in 1990 at the University of British, who propagated worldwide the Global Footprint Network. Ecological footprint is the total amount of biologically productive land and water which is needed in a particular country or area to provide indefinite supply of renewable resources and recycle the wastes produced by such resources. About 25% of the Earth's surface is biologically productive, which supports most of biomass production. The ecological footprint compares consumption of renewable resources with capacity of biological productivity on a global scale. In 2008, WWF and Global Footprint Network estimated that humanity global ecological footprint exceeded the Earth's biological capacity to support human and other life forms indefinitely by at least 30%. The ecological footprint of developed countries is more due to their huge consumption of renewable resources. According to WWF, we need roughly the equivalent of at least 1.3 Earth to provide indefinite supply of renewable resources at their current average rate of use per person and disposal of the wastes generated by them. Second is carbon footprint. It is the measure of greenhouse gas emission that are directly or indirectly caused by an activity or are accumulated over the life stages of a product or service expressed in carbon dioxide equivalent. According to IPCC, there are 18 greenhouse gases with different global warming potential. However, according to United Nations Framework's Convention on Climate Change and its Kyoto Protocol, only few gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, nitrogen dioxide, hydrofluorocarbon, perfluorocarbon, and sulfur dioxide are considered for the purpose of carbon accounting. As a single parameter, it is useful to gauge some aspects of sustainability, though this will not cover all aspects. Third is atmosphere. Agenda 21 suggests an integrated approach to protection of the atmosphere coordinated with social and economic development, which focuses on improving the scientific basis for addressing uncertainties, preventing stratospheric ozone depletion, addressing transboundary air pollution, promoting more sustainable and efficient energy use, transportation, consumption, industrial development, and land and marine resource use. Fourth is land. The land in the CSD framework mainly focuses on the sub-themes of forests, agriculture, urbanization, and desertification. The selected indicators are relevant for assessing sustainable development at the national level and are generally supported by appropriate data sets. The indicators from other environmental sub-themes complement these measures of the land sustainability. For example, ecosystem, water quality, climate change, and coastal zones. In addition, pressure on land and land use are reflected in social, economic, and institutional themes such as poverty, drinking water, population change, and energy uses, and natural disaster preparedness and response. Fifth indicator is oceans, seas, and coasts. The CSD core sets include three indicators under the sub-theme of coastal zone and fisheries that are national in scope and within the capabilities of most countries to develop. The total population in coastal area and algal concentration in coastal water provide measures of overall pressure on the coastal resource, particularly from land-based activities. Sixth indicator is freshwater. The freshwater indicators in the core set capture the two essential dimensions of the quality and quantity. The amount of available water utilized by people of a country, demand for use water, and causes vulnerability of water shortage. The measurement of biological oxygen demand and fecal coliforms concentration reflects the health of ecosystem. Seventh indicator is biodiversity. The selected biodiversity indicators measure the area of selected key ecosystem, the abundance of selected key species, and the protected areas as a percent of total area. They are relatively easy to calculate, meaningful to decision makers, and allow countries flexibility in determining the most important ecosystem and species from a national perspective. The World Commission on Environment and Development in 1987 first addressed the problem of conflicts between environment and development goals by formulating the sustainable development. There is three aspects of sustainable development. The first is economic perspective. An economically sustainable system should produce goods and services on a regular basis without causing any damage to the system. Second is the ecological perspective. Sustainability in the terms of ecology can be defined as the maintenance of ecosystem resilience. The two fundamental facts of ecological and evolutionary biology are the organisms show over reproduction, but their limit is set by space, time, and energy. From ecological point of view, sustainability must involve limits on population size and consumption level, which is applicable to all biological systems. For achieving ecological sustainability, it is necessary to modify current production techniques and consumption preferences which are efficient in economic terms but threaten the ecological resilience of the system. The social perspective, it recognizes the social component of development as an essential part in sustainability. Socially sustainable system can only be achieved through distributional equity, adequate provision of social service, including health and education, gender equity, and political accountability and participation. Guiding principles of sustainable development. The main agenda for sustainable development has a focus on carrying capacity based sustainable development, structural change in the economic sector, and preservative environmental planning. Conservation based developments need to protect the structure and function as well as diversity of natural ecosystems with a focus on following aspects: to conserve life supporting system and ecological processes, to conserve biological diversity in terrestrial, freshwater and marine system, sustainable use of resources, minimizing depletion of natural resources, to care for the environment and poor in south, not to exceed the earth carrying capacity, to improve the quality of life including social and economic concerns, to develop a national framework code to integrate development and conservation. So students, let us summarize what we have learned in this module. Increased human population and development of new techniques resulted exploitation of natural resources to fulfill the basic need of growing human population. The sustainable resource utilization assumes that the used resource is renewable, which can be regenerated by nature itself. The concept of resource utilization through sustainability way can be clarified by studying the ecological concept of functioning of natural ecosystem. Sustainable development stressed that the rate at which natural resources are consumed must approximate the rate at which the resources are regenerated without affecting the social, economic and other needs of future generation. There are numerous challenges for achieving sustainable development such as economic disparity, political instability, severe poverty, disease, undernourishment, population growth and high consumerism in developed economies and increasing global use. Different indicators are used to compress information into an easily understandable forms that can facilitate the decision-making process. Sustainable development has three principal dimensions. First is an economically sustainable system, which should produce goods and services on a regular basis without causing any damage to the system. Second is ecological perspective, which involves limit on population and consumption levels. And third, social components recognizes development as an essential part in sustainability. Thank you.